So let's continue with our last panel today. So if you recall, the very first thing that we said is that Latin America was a fertile ground. I think that that was clear. Everybody said that, and everybody concluded that the potential of Latin America is there and is really untapped. And then we talked about the role of leading corporations, how important they are. And I think they are extremely important. They both said it. They are no longer with us, but trust me, they left. But they know that their role is very, very important. I don't know if they tried to left us with a message, right? But we took note of what they said, and we have it on record. Because they're doing a lot, and they will, of course, be doing more than that. And the second panel was about the role of the investment world and how critical that is. And we heard very good things about it in all senses, from small to big to very successful VCs that started in Latin America years ago, and now they're extremely successful, to larger investors. The very last one, and not least, is really, but for all this to happen, beyond all that, you actually need to unlock innovation. And the unlocking of the innovation, it has to do with the entrepreneurs and with the scientists. After all, those are the ones that do that, that make it happen. So this is what we're going to be discussing in our panel, and our people present here today, they really have a representation of that world. So let me start with Ghazal, which is at my far right. And I've known Ghazal for a while, from her last times within Baker Hughes. And Ghazal, I don't know if you have had a look at her background, but I'll take a minute just to put it in context. And she has a Master's of Applied Mathematics. She studied in an MS from Iranian University of Science and Technology, a PhD in Civil and Environmental Engineering, another PhD in Engineering and in Energy and Mining Engineering as well. So extremely deep science. She also has a business background, by the way, and she started in a corporation. She'll tell us a little bit about that. And now she has moved into a startup with all that technology. And that science background. So, Ghazal, tell us a little bit about that science portion. How was your experience in a corporation? Why you moved now to something different, which is a startup with science as well? And let's see how your profile and your endeavors and your desires have fitted into that in a very successful manner.
I want to say I miss sitting over there, which I spend a lot of time in sitting in this auditorium and classrooms. I really enjoyed the two first panels. So I am a scientist, and I am coming from the background of understanding the physics, maths, and then as you see that I shift from the science to engineering during my master transition to PhD. Because at the end of the day, there is a problem we want to solve. And I think engineering combined with science has really helped us to address that. And moving to big corporation like Baker Hughes, which I spent 11 years, it was extreme. I was lucky because I exposed to a lot of different projects, traveled the world, talking with different problems, and you need to find a solution. And nothing is better than to be in the energy industry, because you need energy for everything. We are talking about 3 human factors. It's shelter, it's water, it's food. And for all of these 3, you need energy. And what is happening today, so a few years ago, it was about Paris Agreement, COP26, it was about climate change. Since this geopolitical issue is happening, climate change is still important, but it's about energy security and energy poverty. And different people has a different feeling about it, because in some regions we feel it much more, and in some area we don't feel it, because it's cheap and it's affordable and it's in our hand. So I live in California. Whenever my electricity bill is coming, I get a heart attack because it's so expensive. And we are also seeing that the energy, so if you look at the graph, the energy demand is going to increase by 40% in next 10 years. And part of this energy is electricity. And if you look at the mix of this, where this energy is coming from, actually I was talking to this EIA, 50% will be oil and gas. Where is the 50 other percent is coming? There was so many discussion around renewable and alternative energy. So that is why I transitioned from oil and gas to this startup, because you want to have an impact. Our world is changing. And if you can bring entrepreneurship, bring new technology to reduce the risk, to have a more cost-effective solution for the future. So that is very powerful. So that was my motivation to move to a startup, because it's much nimble, it's much fast to make a decision, and I'm so excited to be here. And this is my first time in Buenos Aires. I'm very impressed with the hospitality and all this interesting discussion I had with all of you. So thank you, Mariano, for having me here.
No, thank you very much for coming, Ghazal. And maybe first time in Buenos Aires, but I know you've been to Mendoza as well.
I was in Mendoza, and the wine was fantastic.
Exactly. Yeah, you should go back as well. Thanks for coming. We know you're coming from a long way. I mean, these people travel. I mean, she went from California all the way to Abu Dhabi, Adipec, and then flew again, and we have to remind her, today is Buenos Aires, okay?
Yeah.
So, well, very well. Thank you very much. I mean, it's very clear on that path from science to the application of science to a corporation and then a startup, and how all that is building in your career, and how you're being successful by applying that solid background that you have. And now let me move to Alejandro, a little bit in between. Alejandro, he also comes from the technical background. He's an industrial engineer from ITBA. And then he has a business background as well at Ditela. Then he worked at Kimberly and Clark on the supply chain, Louis Dreyfus company, looking at investments and digitization. And then he moved into something which has a lot to do with sparking the innovation, which is CITES. Because CITES is actually, and you will explain us that a little bit more, is what is called a venture builder. And I guess the idea over there is really to spark that innovation. And you're trying to make that happen. So tell us about what CITES does, and what is a venture builder, and how your background helps to do that, and how do you really motivate all those scientists and get them to do perhaps the most difficult thing in a startup, which is not up, but actually start. And I guess that's what you do. Go ahead and let us know how that happens.
Thank you for the question. And I'm maybe a bit of a mix. I'm coming out of 15 years of corporate experience, going through BD, going through trading, management consulting, different kind of things, where I was able to acquire lots of skills, learnings, ability to interact with some different type of stakeholders on the other side, right? Back then I was living in New York, in the US, and this opportunity to join CITES, which was maybe an outlier in the South American ecosystem, right? CITES, it's a venture builder, it's a venture studio, it's a company builder. There are many words that apply to CITES in that sense. The one that I like the most, it's a misfit. A misfit because it's a company trying to develop and nurture other companies in deep science, in hard tech, in scientists like Ghazal, where we get very close to the academia, and we try to support them in anything that they need. And that means writing patents with them, being co-authors, not co-owners, co-authors, helping them incorporate their companies, teaching them how to create culture in a team, how to recruit someone, how to attract, those first, second, and maybe lots of folks that are going to join those companies. And CITES has been doing this, and I'm stepping over the shoulders of Nico Tognali, who couldn't come today, but has been operating in this way for the best part of the last 10 years, right? I've joined recently CITES because I'm the non-PhD. I'm the business guy. That's how I like to define myself, in the sense that in that incorporation of the science into a company, that's doable. And you can create all of the financing and the administration support and everything that connects the dots. But at some point, when that science hits the road, that's where you see the good things happening, right? The experimentation has terrific results and things go well. But how do you interact with the other side, which is the investors, all of the folks that we're sitting today here? How do you convince them? How do you make them believe in this dream? Well, part of that, it's being able to interact, convince them about what you're doing, and as you were saying before, like getting out of your comfort zone and testing different things. That's the piece that I do for the most part at CITES. I try to support all of these terrific scientists in how to present themselves to the world and call the attention. So for anyone who's out there listening and who's interested, reach out. It's always a pleasure to introduce you to our portfolio companies, which are spanning different verticals, from pharma to robotics, through synthetic biology, to medical devices, medical diagnostics. We've got a breadth of opportunities here. And even better would be to have co-investors from the region who can support these great founders and be co-pilots in this adventure. That's a bit of how we try to define ourselves. Thank you for the question.
Fantastic, yeah. And I'll come back perhaps to a few examples later on, because, I mean, you guys were pioneers. I mean, in this world, I mean, saying that you've been doing this for the last 10, 11 years, I mean, you were doing it really at the very beginning. So we'll talk a little bit about the successes. So Pablo, talking about successes and people moving into startups, you also have a mixed background, industrial engineer, MBA finance from Wharton, long history on investment as well, by the way, Citi, Merrill Lynch, I see, AIG. And you are very committed to impact investing. And now, okay, you did a few things in the middle. You might want us to tell us about that, and you ended up with CoreZero now, which is really outstanding and amazing. So tell us a little bit about that growth of that, how that innovation happened, and why are you doing it?
Thanks, Mariano, and thanks everybody for being here and for inviting me to the panel. I actually thought I had a very original story, but it turns out that all three of us are engineers, all three of us moved to business, all three of us moved to entrepreneurship. I mean, so I guess that's the path to follow today, right? I mean, it's what everyone has been doing, but it's actually true. I'm an engineer who very rapidly went to New York and worked in finance. Got my MBA there, and I started working with sustainability 18 years ago, right? When I joined IFC, the private arm of the World Bank, right? And if I told you that I started investing in sustainability, in investments with a double or a triple bottom line 18 years ago, because I had the vision that everyone would be thinking of sustainability today, I would be lying, right? I had no idea. I wanted to get to know the world, and IFC was a great place because they move you around, and they told them I didn't want to do anything in Latin America, so they put me in deals in Turkey, China, Nigeria, India, South Africa. So that opened up my mind a lot. But also gradually, what I always say is sort of implanted a chip on me or a SIM card on me, a virtual one, I mean, not a real one. So basically to look at investments from how to solve a social or environmental or a governance problem, ESG, right? And first look at that and then create the financial instrument to actually adapt to it. So that's the way I look at investments today, right? I've done, before joining CoreZero, which I'll talk about a little bit in a second, I did more than 50 impact investments. And I always looked at the social problem that we were looking to resolve, the environmental problem that we were looking to resolve, or the governance problem that we were looking to resolve. And the instrument came afterwards. So I became an expert in designing instruments that could actually address the two things at the same time. And it's clear today that you don't have to sacrifice one for the other one. That development is very strongly correlated with financial returns, right?
Correct.
So after that, and someone said before that, we should get out of your comfort zone, and that's sort of my motto. I mean, the life begins at the end of of your comfort zone. I have it in my mug in the morning. I have a magnet in the fridge, and I have it everywhere, so I don't forget it. I felt that I need to get my hands a little bit dirtier. I have a colleague from Deloitte here, so a company that I respect a lot. But I was a guru preparing presentations, and someone else was actually implementing things, right? So I joined this, you can still call it a startup because we're in a second round, company called CoreZero, which is the only technological platform in the world that can create carbon credits out of what we call waste diversion. And what is that? I mean, of course, no one manufactures a product that is going to be destroyed, right? That you think is going to be destroyed. But yet, we destroy between 10 to 15% of the total products that we produce in a perfect state of use or in a perfect state of consumption. Human beings today produce 1.2 kilograms of waste per day. That's twice as much than what we produced 10 years ago, right? So, and my boss tells this in a very poetic way. He built and operated the largest waste treatment facility in Peru, right? And he one day went to see his operation, and they brought him 1.3 tons of a pill that's used to treat high blood pressure for destruction, for him to destroy it in his incinerator. Why? Because the stamp of the approval of the Health Institute of Mexico was a little smudged. It was cheaper to destroy it than to take all the pills out and repackage them again. That, of course, triggered something on him. And basically, he went and sold the plant and started, during the pandemic, a series of e-commerce platforms under which we would rescue products and give them a second life. Let me give you an example. World Cup next month. Coca-Cola is going to, I'm sorry, I don't know if I can name brands, but we can say Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Manaus, whatever you want.
Zonda Capital.
Zonda Capital will produce cans of soft drinks with Messi's picture, right? The World Cup is going to be over, Argentina will win it, we'll all be happy, but then what are we going to do with all these soda cans, right? They get incinerated, right? Because the campaign is over.
Amazing.
So if you rescue those products and you give them a second life, you are basically avoiding methane or CO2 emissions that go into the atmosphere. So that allows you to create a carbon credit, right? Because of the differential. So through the development of those stores, we signed agreements with more than 150 FMCGs. We developed our own proprietary taxonomy to create, carbon credits out of waste diversion. We did the first by hand in a very, handcrafty way. We managed to create them, serialize them, and sell them in the market. And now we basically decided to create a technology, a full-blown technology platform that makes the whole process pretty much automatic. Right?
I will come back to that technology because I'm not going to give you an easy time because you said of this combination of people that come from technology somehow, engineering, but they pivoted to business. That's true. But you're in this panel because of your technology part, so I'm not going to give you a break on that.
I was hoping.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So then the next question is for you guys is actually, Ghazal, why technology is so important? Why are we talking about development and innovation and so on? And we use, perhaps if we count over here, the word that was mostly used was technology. And there could be others as well, right? I mean, including business and returns and banks and so on, but the technology piece goes in there. Why?
I think innovation is very important because right now, when we are looking at energy sectors, William mentioned that they are investing in so many new technologies. And why it's important? Because we want some kind of change. Either we want to bring the cost down, we want to be more efficient, we want to cover more geographic market. So I am working now for a company called Geothermic Solution. That's why I'm very also interested in Latin America and especially Argentina. That if you look at the geographic map, they call ring of fire. It means that there is so many volcanic areas that the temperature, high temperature is very close to the earth. So if we can capture this heat and convert it effectively to electricity or for cooling and heating, you are going to solve a lot of problems, especially in the area that you are going to import a lot of fossil fuel to make your energy, to support your energy consumption. The heat is unlimited, but the technology needs to be there to make it effectively convert it to our needs. And that is our technology is going to address, because we call it geothermal, if you heard about it. So we are using the energy of the heat and convert it to electricity. And Argentina is very interesting because yesterday I was sitting with Vista Oil and they were showing me all this Vaca Muerta data. I had the privilege to work on Vaca Muerta shale gas back in 2018. So much happened, right? And we are talking about technology. So what is happening today is about lowering the cost per barrel production. Why it happened? Because there is so many technology developed on drilling, horizontal, completing the well, fracturing, stimulation. And this technology exists. We just need to adapt it from one sector to another sector with adding more innovation to that for the purpose we need. So I am very motivated to bring this type of technology from oil and gas and use it in the green manner for the renewable energy like geothermal. And Latin America, west part of all Latin America, Argentina is the top source for this type of application. How we can motivate local investor to tap into this energy and combine it and mix it with our fossil fuel. We are not saying that fossil fuel should be out of the picture. We want to say how we can leverage electricity from the renewable source. And then you can use the electricity for different, we were hearing about hydrogen. We are talking about electromobility, electrifying the oil and gas asset, data centers. In the next 5 years, 1/5 of energy of the world goes through data centers, where the electricity is coming from. Right? So imagine that what an exciting resource you have here, and the technology could untap to that. And I'm not saying that we are there because our startup has not proven yet. As Paul mentioned, we have our struggle as a startup too, right? So we know our technology is unique, but how we can find an investor, how we can finance it, how we can go to the next step. So these are, I don't want to call it challenges, opportunity, but it's also exciting. So I have multiple hats. I'm a janitor in the office, I make coffee, I do modeling. I need to sign the check. So it's so much learning. So I love it.
Yeah, and I remind you that you also have a full email from one of the chief technology officers from a large company himself. He sent you a large email with technological questions written by himself that you need to answer as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. So and you better answer them right, and that's where technology comes. Exactly.
Absolutely.
So fantastic, very clear as well. So Ale, you also mentioned technology. You guys do technology, and there could be other startups and or other things or parts of businesses without mentioning so much technology. Yours is about technology. Why is it?
Yeah. In my previous question, I was talking about what CITES has done in these previous 10 years, maybe. What is coming, and that's a bit of why I'm sitting here, and I'm just going to share that a couple of months ago, we co-founded with you guys and some other VCs the Climate Tech Council, because this is very important, and this is dear and near to our heart at CITES. We're trying to push ourselves out of our comfort zone and go into climate tech. This is where we want to live. This is part of what we want to be, and we're doing it because we believe in this. Ghazal was talking about everything that technology means and requires. Back in the 1900s, humanity was facing a situation where there won't be food enough to feed in the world, right? Maybe 20, 50 years after the 1900s, the crazy fox created ammonia or fertilizers to feed and create more food for the world. This is the kind of technological breakthroughs that geothermal could allow. And this is what I do, right? I'm trying to pitch what she's doing, but this is what I like. This is what I enjoy, and I take your role. And geothermal, you know, it's that amazing amount of energy residing down there in the earth. We need to figure out a way of drilling, making it more efficient, and then electrifying it and putting it at the service of the population. So these are the kind of things that we are passionate about. This is how we try to relate with these technological changes in the way we live and how we do it. And there's certainly no right or wrong way of doing it, right? We need probably to continue using the same tools that we have been using for the past 100 years, and slowly starting to test different things: hydrogen, geothermal, different type of energies, electric, anything that puts us in a better way. That's how we try to think about this transformation and innovation, and sometimes it's being able to understand which are the best ways to play your odds, right? Innovation sometimes is trying to understand when you have to say no, so that when the right one comes, you can say yes. And then I'm putting my hat as a VC, right? Because you need to be ready, you need to accompany all of these opportunities, but being very intelligent on how to support them is what we try to do our best. And we are definitely not alone here. There's lots of investors in the room. There's lots of stakeholders that have been helping on these. And what we need to do in LATAM, I'm sorry I'm derailing a bit, but it's work together on this. Work together with you guys and co-invest in the company and figure out which are the best chances for those companies to succeed and how to support ourselves.
Correct.
Mariano,
Okay.
did you hear what he said? He's going to sign a check.
That's very good, eh? Well said, yeah. Exactly.
Well done.
Yeah, we're going as per the script right there, right? So, well, so now, Pablo, then on your side, what you describe on CoreZero, if you describe it at high level that you just did, you know, the word technology, I mean, some might think that is not there, but it's definitely a lot embedded into that. That's how you make it happen. And that's how you really are going to differentiate and make it work. So tell us a few words on the technology that you apply on your...
Yeah, well, technology for us is essential. It's our main differentiator, and that's why we decided to develop a whole platform that can do this in a mostly automatic way. Why? Because technology allows you to reach the world, right? And we talked a lot about how Argentina is a good place to develop technological tools and export them to larger markets. And the problems of hunger, poverty, water scarcity are global problems, not local problems, right? So through technology, you can actually reach the world, right? I mean, someone in Qatar can connect. I'm sorry, I keep on talking about the World Cup. Someone in Qatar can connect to our platform and basically do a measurement of the carbon credits from there. I mean, we don't need to be physically there. Two, technology gives you speed, right? The first set of carbon credits that we needed to create took us 2.5 years. The credits that we're creating now will take us 2.5 months, all because we're using technology. Third, technology gives you traceability. One of the big criticisms that the voluntary carbon markets are facing today is all this greenwashing, possibility of duplicity, etc. Our platform uses blockchain, to tokenize every single carbon credit that we generate. So every carbon credit that we generate is attached to a smart contract. So you prevent greenwashing and duplicity, right? And technology also allows you to learn from your own experiences because you can actually aggregate data, right? The word big data, it's been in everyone's mouths for the last decade, right? But it improves and increases so much your capacity of learning, right? And doing it better the next time, that it's the key differentiator in our product.
Yeah.
I mean, without technology, we would not be what we want to be.
Sure, great. By the way, just to recap, so you guys started in Peru, right?
The company was started in Peru.
Right.
I mean, again, with the concept of these e-commerce stores that we gradually developed into Colombia and to Mexico.
And then you moved overseas.
That allowed us to create the taxonomy,
yeah,
to create this carbon credit out of waste diversion. Now we are a Miami-based company, right, with operations all over Latin America. We're starting operations in the US, and we also in fairly advanced negotiations with a client that I really like in the Middle East. So that we could only do through the power of technology.
Fantastic, and I'm glad to hear that you started in Latin America as well.
Definitely started in Latin America.
So, well, very, very well done. We will hear more about, okay, so all these people are scientists from a pure PhD and then a mix of sciences, but they all have a business-oriented thing as well. And that's probably why they make it directly to the panel. But let's not forget about the very pure scientists as well. And those usually, they don't like to sit in here. But they are extremely fundamental. So if you're, in fact, they are the core. So if you want to hear about those, by the way, those will be today afternoon as a side event as well. Those are the true hard scientists that will be telling their stories about science themselves. Okay, and then to close, my very last question to you, the three of you, is your actual message to those scientists, but now in regarding to why they should focus, or why is it a good idea to focus on energy and climate. Whoever wants to start in any order.
Okay, so I think, as I mentioned in the opening, our world is changing. Energy transition is real. And to adapt to this new journey, we need new technology, we need innovation, we need brilliant minds. As a female engineer in a male-dominated industry, which I love it. I mean, I don't look at it from I learned a lot, and I also get this feedback from my colleagues that how much diverse team can bring fun and innovation into the picture, because we are thinking differently. So I see a lot of brilliant female engineer, non-engineer, so sorry, I don't know your background, but this is what industry needs. So we need to really be part of this journey. We need to push for it, because this is fantastic. I'm telling you, I was in the field and everybody looked at me and said, how do you feel about it? I said, it's great. So in terms of what you said, I believe that the science needs to be fundamentally addressed from certain steps. When we are talking about new technology, I have done a lot of modeling and numerical simulation.
I know.
And this is the computational mathematics, mechanics is important. So the pure part of the science really help you to understand how to go to the prototyping of your technology, and then the next phase of that for the pilot and commercialization. So there is a process, and science is the fundamental part of that. So if you are interested to be from the scientist all the way to the commercial person, this is the right path, and it's exciting.
And by the way, I mean, I like to take 30 seconds and say a story, because science is power, in all honesty. Within a corporation, within any discussion, you start talking about business, you start talking about engineering and so on. And by the way, when somebody from the last part of the room raises his hand and he's a scientist, and he says, no, you know what, it's not going to work. And the whole thing goes quiet. And that's actually what happened with your development of your previous thing in Baker Hughes, which I didn't want to do, by the way. She was a scientist, and she actually, exercised the power over me, because she ended up doing it. It worked out well. Yeah. True. So, well, then go ahead, Ale.
I'll try to make it short, but for the most part, I would say science, it's the core, and it's fundamental for most of these endeavors in climate, and the opportunity is massive. I will only echo the words of Juan Pablo, your words in the opening, Juan Pablo Gaviria as well. Like, this is really transformative, and I think it touches us all. Ghazal was talking about this, right? Anything that we do, it's related to energy. That's the most primitive concept that we have, and if you feel, as I feel that calling in a way, that I want to go in this direction, because it's a matter of intrinsic motivation that I want to make a change. Maybe I hadn't done it before. It doesn't matter. Maybe it's I want to put this into my agenda. I want to go in this direction. I'm trying to reach out to folks in the science, in the business, because there's, at the end of the day, a company, an opportunity that needs to be seized, and it's never a one-person show. It's always a team underneath of these opportunities. So team up, look for that challenge that really moves you, and it's a puzzle, because sometimes there's no right answers, right? And go for it.
Good. Okay, thank you. Pablo, why energy and the climate?
Yeah, I don't want to sound apocalyptic, right? But I will.
We knew already.
Guys, let's face it, we don't have time. The world is getting destroyed, right? And all the numbers and all the indicators that you see towards much harder and harsher conditions between now and 2050 are true, right? Sometimes people exaggerate, but in most cases, they are true. And I'm going to quote two people that I respect a lot. One is Bill Gates, because he predicted the COVID pandemic, and after that, I believe everything he says. We need to invent a significant number of processes and ways of doing things in a different way between now and 2050, or otherwise, we're not going to be able to change the level of energy we consume, the degree of increase in temperature in the world, etc. There's a million of things that need to be reinvented. Science is the key for that, right? And the second person I'm going to quote is Bono. I have a passion for music as well, right? And it's something I have tattooed in my hand, which is a part of his song One, right? Which is one of the most famous ones, which says, we're one, but we're not the same, so we have to carry each other. This is something that we cannot do alone, right? Ghazal cannot do alone, Alejandro cannot do alone, Mariano cannot do alone, I cannot do alone. We need to work as a community and get together and go and follow that route.
Well said. Very good. All right. I think I thank you very much for that. I think there might be a time for a question at least. Do we have that? Is there a question on the audience? We have a shy audience today. Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you very much. I'm Tomás. I'm from Tech Energy Ventures. I have a question for Pablo. How do you see the competitiveness of carbon credits created by avoidance versus removal? And what are the prices and the liquidity that you are seeing in the market?
I think carbon capture and carbon credits are complementary, right? I mean, the level of course, I mean, 75% of the carbon credits produced by the world today come from forestry of energy, right? You have two issues with that. One, there's not enough space to plant the number of trees that you need to plant in order to remove all the carbon that you need to remove from the world. And second, with energy, I mean, you're generating waste, right? But because one of the criticisms that renewable energy is facing is what you're going to do with all the pallets from all the mills, what are you going to do with all the batteries that you put in next door, what are you going to do with all the solar panels, right? So you need alternative ways and disruptive ways, right? And I think those are perfectly complementary, right? I mean, as long as they are economically viable. Prices, big debate. I mean, as you know, the carbon market is an OTC market, right? It's not an open commodity market. The World Bank today tells you there's more demand than supply, 4-1, right? So the trend seems to be, and of course, that we want to make money as well with our platform, apart from improving the world, is that prices are going upwards. But that varies a lot by the type of credit, the country, the commitment of the country to reduce emissions, and the commitment of the company to reduce emissions. For instance, you have a recent transaction where Shell has paid in Europe $60 per ton of carbon credit. In China, you get carbon credit for $1, right? So there's a lot of volatility. I can tell you how much our carbon credits will be worth in 2 months when we place them in the market, right? But we feel that the trend is upwards. But something to be very clear as well, carbon credits are not the holy grail. They're a mitigation tool. And it's very important who you sell the carbon credits to. There's a show that I recommend everybody to see, which is the Late Night Show by John Oliver, who basically destroyed carbon credits. He said that they're completely useless. One of the things that he says, which are very true, is like, you know, if I have more money, right, I can pollute more. Because all I do is buy more carbon credits, and my account is always zero, and I'm carbon neutral. It's very important that you sell to companies that are committed towards a long-term emission reduction plan, right? Carbon credits can help you get there, but they're not meant to be the solution to get there, right? So it's a clear differential that will take. We foresee demand for a while, but there will be a point at which buying carbon credits would be uneconomical, and you might as well change your processes because it doesn't make any more sense.
Very good. Any other question? Okay, we will close it there. I think it was really about unlocking innovation. You are great examples of having unlocked innovation, and you will continue to do that. And I thank you very much for coming today. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.